Good morning. What's up? I'm so excited to be here today. Got Dr. Cordie Williams on with me, man. And if you don't know who this guy is, well, you're missing out on a lot. He has been literally all over this country, back and forth, scouring everything from you name the stage, he's been in front of it. And he has been going after it, crushing it. If you haven't heard of him, it's hashtag 1776 forever, hashtag megaphone marine. He's been on you've been on every major network, I think, that's been out there so far. You've been on that. You've got some big things lined up. Known this guy a long time. I know his wife. He's got two beautiful boys, and it's an honor to be hanging out with you today. Dr. John Petrick's supposed to join us today, and he had a problem. He couldn't get here, so it's going to be me and you, Doc, and I'm super excited. We've got a lot of important things to cover. But first, I'd just like to thank you and welcome you just to hanging out and talking today. I think we've got some really important topics to hit today.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Dr. Joe. You've for those of you that don't know, Dr. Joe has been a huge mentor to my wife and I for years. I remember as students looking up to Dr. Deb, his lovely wife, and him and just his entire family. So honored to be on, brother. Absolutely.
Thank you, man. Absolutely. Thank you. Well, you know what, man? It's funny. It's always said that the tip of the arrow catches the most resistance, right? And you are out there right now, man. You're in the tip. So you've been out there, you're fighting for people and freedoms, and you're just going against this whole concept of what's happening inside of America and how it's kind of being torn from the fabric from the inside out. Things I want to really kind of hit today was like, what is happening inside of our freedoms and what's going on, and what have you been, you get the boots on the ground, what's happening. Two, how healthcare, how do you see that forming and shaping out, just being out there. And three, what are some of the things we can do and action steps that we can do to help protect ourselves in the future? So those are the three big bites I want to go after today. So I would love to hear your insights that. And if you want to start off with just like the idea of like, what is going on inside of politics and healthcare today? What is happening, man, when you're seeing out there?
Yeah, well, I think you're starting to see the grabs for freedom and the kind of the noose of tyranny coming in. Because what you're seeing government overreach, Joe. You're really starting to see what we as chiropractors have been talking about for decades, for years. A mentor of yours and mine, Dennis Cerrone, people like that, Billy DeMoss. Whoever you want to say, that the guy's 20, 30, 40 years, not to make Billy that old, but there's just all these different people, Guy Reekman, whatever name you want to throw out in the healthcare field, right? Chiropractic, whatever field you want to go to. But there were these conspiracy theories and, forced vaccines and you guys are quacks and all this, right? And we were these crazy quacks, almost like the Patriot Republicans, the 3%ers, right? The Proud Boys, right? Like, it's funny. I'm part of the recall movement. So I mentioned that because Gavin Newsom got on The View. He got on another program and he said the top 10 proponents of the recall. Well, I'm one of those. And so I wear a backwards hat and I have this flag behind me. So I guess that makes me a 3%er. And then he dogged Orrin Heatley, who I talk to pretty much 3 times a week. Sometimes we even talk every day. And he's the guy that started the whole recall, but he's a 3%er. He's a Proud Boy. So you're really seeing on the freedom end and the health spectrum end, people being exiled for a different viewpoint under the auspices and the guises of, we want everybody to be free and every life matters. And, we're all the same and all that, this utopianistic society, when in actuality, it's like the Jews of World War II. We're isolating one segment of people we don't agree with, or one segment of people that want choice, and we're saying they don't matter and everybody else does.
It's so funny. So I started, when this all started going down, I started going through history, because history leaves clues, right? It's repeatable. It has repeated itself over and over again. And when you go through some of the regimes, every major power has collapsed, every one of them through the history of America. And when you look at the reasons why they've collapsed is what starts to get frightening. And then you look at why they collapsed or how they collapsed, then it gets even more frightening, because we are literally on a one-way path to do that. Not only that, we're also if you look at anything in the communistic realm of how it shifted and what they did, first thing they did was denationalize everything around us, right? They took away everything that had any type of symbol to anything. And then they stripped it away. And then they started then just putting in and pulling people away from their own country. And that's exactly how the movement starts. And, I think people are starting to wake up. There's a huge group that says, yeah, I'm awake, but there's other people now that are starting to see like, maybe this thing has gone a little too far left and we need to maybe kind of put the brakes on it, and I think people are starting to really understand that this thing is moving in the wrong direction. Love to hear your thoughts on that, man.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. What I was thinking about as you were saying that is somebody came up to me a couple of days ago. I don't know if it was at a rally or an event, or if they emailed in, how that works. It all kind of merges together. But there was a conversation we had essentially about, hey, Doc, what do you think about a civil war? What do you think about us pushing back? That's what our founding fathers did, against tyranny. They pushed back, they picked up arms and all that. And my first response was, well, yeah, you could try to do that at this point. Maybe it'll get to that point. I pray to God it doesn't. Right. But then you got to worry about the blue hats. You got to worry about China. And so many people have professed that if that were to ever happen, if the American people pushed back and it got violent, so to speak,
yeah.
That the United Nations would be in here. We'd have the Chinese on the streets. And even the fact that people would say that shows kind of where we're at. And it shows how deep some of these threats against freedom and the republic that you and I grew up with, or that we thought we were living in, and this flag that the souls that are 6 feet under died for. I mean, that's really what's at stake. And they're slowly inching their way in. They're censoring any voice they don't agree with. They're creating this gaslighting. And I mean, just look at how much, Joe, in the last 9 to 12 months, if I would have asked you or you would have asked me that we would visualize America changing that much in 15 months. I don't know anybody that could have.
No way predicted it. It's interesting to me is that the fundamentals that have the fabric of America, I'm amazed how something as an election and then put on top of it this pandemic has literally torn the fabric, like the deep fabric of people apart. Let me give a couple examples. Teachers. We see a lot of teachers in the practice. I'm sure you do too. There is a lot of tension inside the world of teaching. And I feel bad for teachers because there's this pull inside and outside. Are we going back? Are we not going back? Are we masking? Are we not? Are we vaccinating? We're not vaccinating. Like there's this whole thing that's pulling inside of that. It's pulling them apart. Now they're looking at each other and fighting within the schools like I've never seen before. Like it's just a mess. Churches, never in a million years did I think that a virus or a pandemic would go in there and hurt churches from the inside out. Change the philosophy in which people praise and think through God from above and down. And we've lost that connection through this pandemic. And then you take the general population of now it's becoming, it used to be like, hey, if you were this and I was that, we could somehow just be, okay, that's you, that's your view, it's great. Like now it's almost like you're in this place of decision-making where I have to decide what box I'm in. And if you don't like the box, then I'm going to either get rid of you or I'm not going to like you or I'm going to remove you. I've lost friends. I've lost patients. I've lost family over this entire thing. And I know a lot of people that are listening are going, yep, and yep. And that's a major problem. And that's destroying the fabric of who we are because of the values and our moral compass has been lost. Thoughts on that, man? That's a big one. It's a big lift right there.
Yeah, no, it is. And I totally agree. And I was sitting here thinking, in a way, they've already won just by doing that. And we're kind of doing the job for them, right? Because when they can create division inside and out and all these Karens and Kevins with the flesh-eating bacteria where you and I need to put a dirty jock strap and a maxi pad over our face, and then nobody can kill us or touch us, right? And the plexiglass, because the virus only moves vertically. Right. So it moves one direction, not around the plexiglass, but just this way. Right. But it's the idiocy of it and the fact that people don't see the real play and the real game. And again, the medical community did that to chiropractors for years, just making them, ostracizing them and making them look like these tinfoil hat folks and all this and all that. And, you know, we're seeing that in mainstream society now. And, you know, as you were talking about that, like, wow, to say that we have this public health crisis that is so severe that government now has to impose how you raise your kids, what you do to your kids. I mean, everybody should be frightened by that.
Yeah.
The moment, even if you're pro-vaccine and you want to vaccinate and inject your kids, it's like we've said since day one, it's like Del Bigtree, who's a friend of ours, has said, like, if your vaccine is so effective and it works, then go vaccinate your kids and get the hell out of my, you know, the lives of mine and trying to influence what I do with my children. And the moment that government does that and government starts to dictate what we do with our healthcare, I mean, oh my God, we really got to look down and around us and see if we're still living in the country we thought we were. You know, it's, yeah, man, it just sickens me.
And that leads us right into the next conversation, which is healthcare. Like, I think it's such a big lift and such a big talk of what was going on. I mean, I'm in it every day, and I find it amazing just the level of encroachment that's creeping inside of us. You know, listen, here's my view. I've always been this way when it comes to drugs or vaccines or anything. I think there's always two sides to a coin, right? There's always two sides to a story. And I understand both sides, and I try to educate my patients and people around me on the sides of those, right? And then it's for you to make an educated decision about your health and your body and what you want to do with you and your family. It's not my call. It's not my body. It's not my health. It's not my choice. It's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to push you down an agenda or a process. I'm here to educate you and let you make your own decision. That's what's called freedom, right? That's what we do.
Amen.
Right? And so now all of a sudden what happens is if I say that, or if I do that, if I say anything around that, now I am the conspiracist, right? And I am the wrong person for saying, no, these are facts on the other side of the coin. So you can't have one side of a coin and have facts and just naturally not have another side of the coin. It's physically impossible to have that. And so, yeah, but that other side doesn't want to be mentioned, doesn't want to be talked about, doesn't want to come into conversations. And I think that's when we're starting to overreach and do what we do, because the idea is that people should have a choice. This thing called the body, the temple that God has given me to live in, to store my soul, is what I work through every day. And I have a moment on this earth to shine through that. But I should be allowed that choice to do what I want with it, how I want with it, and not be forced into doing anything I don't want to do. And it's knocking at our doorstep, and it is concerning. It's super concerning. What's the consensus on the ground, man, when you're out there?
Yeah, well, it's you know, it's just really, really interesting. You know, it's this whole thing. I mean, it's like a bad dream. You know, like it's like a horrible bad dream. It's like, and just I never would have thought 15 months ago, that we'd be in the place that we're in right now.
Yeah, no,
America has done this seismic shift, not only where you have policies, you have politicians dictating social agendas, right? So the politicians are dictating the way our society.
You have non-politicians doing the same thing.
What's that?
You have non-politicians doing the same thing. You know what I mean?
Well, and they're like paving the landscape for what morality is, which is like laughable, right? So now, if you identify as a man or identify as a woman, and I guess, I don't know what junk you have in your trunk, but you tape it back, right? And now a surgery can be paid for in the United States military. And I'm not hating, like, whatever your choice is, lifestyle. I mean, one of the things about 1776 Forever Free, my organization, is, you know, the same thing the left is trying to do with the recall. We're like, oh, well, you guys are just Republicans, or you guys are Proud Boys, or 3%ers, or whatever. I'm like, no, we stand with anyone. I stand with the LGBTQ community, black, red, purple. I don't care what color skin you are. If you stand for my family and my kids having peace and love and me raising my kids the way I want, then I stand with you, because I want you to have that choice to live that life in your house.
Whatever you choose.
How you want. What's
Yeah,
that?
like whatever they choose, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I really don't. Whatever people want, I love you for where you are and what
Amen.
what you're doing. But when you take your agenda, and this is the part that's bothering me, when you take your agenda and force it on me and act as though you don't want to hear my feelings and my side, and you keep pushing your side to me, but yet you don't want to hear the other side of the coin, regardless of what it is, now I have a problem. Because now it is an agenda. It is something that it is not equal, right? Equal has two sides. It's a balance. I have a balance behind me. I have a little like a little like like if you don't have that, now you're one-sided. And that's the part I have a really, really hard time with, is because the reality of it is that as a human and as a person on this earth, I should have the right to choose whatever I do, whatever I want to do, how I want to do it, however I want to live my life. But the second you judge me for it or push me against it and then say, hey, Air Doc,
Yep, I'm here.
I don't know what happened. The internet went down or something happened there.
No, it's all good. We got a frozen spot. I don't know on
Yeah,
whose side,
yeah.
but it's the way tech goes.
I know. So that's the part, man. We see all kinds of people in the practice. I love everybody, man. I do. I love everybody. Like, I think people are awesome when they just want love and freedom and they want their own space and respect. I'm all in. But when it's not around that, and that's not the red thread that lives inside of people, then I have a problem. Like, I cannot live inside those realms where I'm being forced into feeling or doing something that I don't want to do. Like, and I just have a hard time with that.
Yeah, no, it's these are crazy times that we live in, and I just, every time I go across the country and I have an interview and I think back to the last 15 months, I think about in June and July when, the CNN reporter is talking about the peaceful protests and there's, a building burning behind him, right? Like the most epic like shot and just depiction of how insane our fake news is and what they're spewing. And that alone kind of paints the picture of what is happening from a political, like social agenda standpoint, because they're really attacking, Dinesh D'Souza talks about the three megaphones: media, Hollywood, and education. And we're really seeing this, we call it interlocking fields of fire in the Marine Corps. You're seeing this multifaceted attack. And what patriots have done, because I'm not going to say Republicans, because there's so many rhinos out there that actually don't believe in the flag, and they're as bad as the deep staters are. And this multifaceted attack to take down the churches, right? A lot of patriots think they're going to go after the guns. No, they're kind of going from within. It's like Khrushchev said, right? We won't come after your we won't come after you with a military army. We're going to attack you from within. We're going to attack you through race. We're going to attack you through ideology. And that's exactly what you're seeing, to your point that you opened up with, right? You're seeing the footprints of communism all around.
Well, what I found was crazy is, this pandemic is real and there's something out there, and I agree. But what's happened is fear is an amazing tool. And and if you look through history, it has always been the most leveraged thing against humanity ever is fear. And people have fear for different reasons when it comes to this. They have fear of death, which I understand totally. They have fear of being alone, right? They have that. They have fear of being ousted or outsided. So they have all these different fears of what's happening. And I understand that, but that fear is moving people through different morality steps that normally they would check along the way. They're just blowing right by them. And then what's happened is this new thing that's come out to save us all has become almost the God ideology of what's happening, and removed the God itself and put that in place of it. Because, I challenge Christians all the time. Like, if the body is that smart and we've been around this long, how have we gotten this far? How have we gotten this far? And how have we made it through healthcare all this time without the smarts of man, without the brilliance of man and come inside that. Like, there's amazing things that happen in medicine, and I'm not denying that. But guess what? You know what? We've made it, right? If I cut my arm off, there's no one better to sew it on. No one, right? But when it comes down to healthcare and managing how I live my life every day, I question it often, is that, are we really living through a healthcare model?
Yeah, no. And you can look at the rates and percentages of people not getting better. You can look at, the old stat that a lot of chiropractors tout is, we represent, 5% of the world's population, but we consume 90% of the world's drugs. Right. Different stats that are very close to that, whatever the percentage of drugs is, it's significant. Tenfold what it is for our percentage of population that we represent. And then you look at, whether you go vaccines and you talk about, it's, the Liability Act that came out in 1981 that Ronald Reagan signed. You talk about the vaccine court. We could go on and on railing about that, but there's no question there's a virus out there. What I've candidly said from the get-go is that virus are the deaths, the real deaths, not the ones that people have made up and put on a death certificate, because the CDC said that most of the stats were false. They've said that since the beginning. Wear a facial condom, don't, right? It slow the spread, 2 weeks. I mean, all the BS that we've heard about it. And God bless the people that lost a loved one. My heart certainly goes out to you. But I just wonder if the real information was out there, not the information that they've trashed, lied, obscured, or hidden, like OSHA in March or April. I printed off from the OSHA website all the specific, symptomatology for who could wear a mask, who couldn't, how to properly fit it. You can't find that anywhere now, right? So the deception that's going on, it's like, wow. It just, as healthcare professionals like yourself and me and our colleagues and our friends, you kind of look around and you're like, wow, like, this is really what's happening. When we don't get our way, we're just going to lie, cheat, and steal our way out of it to influence policies the way we unilaterally think they should be imposed. And we're no longer even going to give people choice or allow people to critically think on their own.
Yeah, last thing here, and it's so good. So Dr. John Petrick was supposed to come on. He's going to be running for one of the state seats in Nevada, and I guess that leads me into the idea of what can people do. Like, you know what? Like, I love us talking, and I love that the fact that you're out there trying to get people together and create actionable steps. What are some of the things as a person at home doing, like, and saying, hey, look, man, I believe I have certain freedoms I should be allowed. And how do we stick up for those freedoms? And how do we hold those true still without, you know what I mean? Like, where do we do and how do we go? Because, my thing is, and this goes true for healthcare, when people don't know what to do next, they normally do one of two things. They do nothing, or they go back to what they used to do. And often that's totally the wrong way to be moving. So, in order to take action, you need to know what to do next. What are some of the things that we can do on everyday living people, just going up to work, trying to help people do our thing, people going up, teachers, everybody doing their thing. What can we be doing to help society, one, help hold its fabric together, but two, make sure that nothing, our freedoms aren't taken away from us?
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is just step up and lean in. And I mean, so what that looks like, if you don't know, is get involved. What we always say is we want to move, touch, and inspire and mobilize people. So our goal is for everybody to learn the Constitution. So that's kind of that 501c3 educational arm of 1776 Forever Free. We do constitutional classes every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Got a guy named Doug Gibbs. And literally, Joe, we have people all over the country, probably get 50 or 60 people in person, 40 or 50 online. We're launching a educational platform to teach people how to run for office. Because, we've said forever, and I remember Guy Reekman saying it at Life University as a student, he said, essentially, if you don't have a seat at the table, then quit belly aching, like go home. and there were 165 vacant seats in San Diego County last year, where I'm not even going to pick a party, just people that are anti-Americans and don't want people to have choice, where they walked into office unopposed. And so there were people that thought about it and sat at home, and wouldn't just lean in one more second. My friend and your friend, Matt Hubbard, said, he quoted General Patton at Awaken Church this past weekend. And he said, one more second. General Patton used to say that one more second of fear on the other side of that is courage. And so if people would just lean in, learn their Constitution, whether they run for Board of Education, City Council, whatever they're willing to do, they're going to fill a seat that an anti-American now can't get into. And that's going to be our goal of our super PAC that we're launching and forming, is to get people nationally in these local governments. Because candidly, the next COVID scam is coming. The next grab for freedom is coming. The next concocted device to control us more and control how we raise our kids, they're already planning it right now. And so the question is, are you going to be left with your thumb stuck somewhere it shouldn't be, on the sidelines, handing out jock straps and Gatorade, or are you going to be actively involved? And that's what I'm pushing people to do. Share your videos, get your voice out there. The old BJ Palmer or DD Palmer quote, you never know how far reaching what you think, say, or do, and how that can affect, the lives of millions of people. Well, your folks in your practice and the people that love you, they have a voice, whether they have a podcast or not. That one thing they share could launch the next person that could put out a voice or a message to reach millions. Look at Sean Voigt, who was almost a nobody 12 months ago. And now the guy plays his guitar with his beautiful loxy hair, like Scott Presley. These guys have great hair wherever they get it from. And he's talking about Jesus. You don't have to worry about that, right?
No. I missed that T-shirt.
And they're playing to thousands of people and talking about God and a connection through God.
Yeah.
And so what I would tell people is donate, get involved with your time, learn your Second Amendment, because it's your God-given right to know it, not to incite violence, but to protect your family and your country against a tyrannical government, and get out there and get in the fight. But you got to learn your guidebook to freedom. I'm a Jesus guy. The guidebook to salvation is the Bible. The guidebook to your path to freedom is the Constitution.
Amen.
Learn it, own it, and then use it by getting in office.
Yeah, and it's such wise words, man. And I think it's so important. That's what I wish Dr. John could have made it. And that guy gets up every day, studies the Declaration, and he studies the Constitution every single day, because it is the words that the forefathers were so brilliant when they wrote those things so far ago, to have insight of what could happen and what could be. I mean, hundreds of years later, it's incredible that they would have that kind of insight back then, but they knew what politics was. I mean, if you look back, politics are politics. It's always been around. It's never going to go away. You're never going to have a harmony of country, if you will. Even if one party takes over more than the other, you're always going to have opposing people. You're going to have two sides of a coin. You're always going to have that, no matter what you do. But that whole book is what is about us to, it's about what we do and how we do it every day. And the things that we have, Dr. John says, and I love what he says. He said, if you look at the words, freedom is something, and that's why I wish he was here. Freedom is something government gives you. Liberty is something God gives you. And when he told me that at a dinner table, I had blue paint on, I had my kilt on, and I was ready to go. You know what I mean? Because the reality is I've been given liberty, okay? And I have not. Freedom is what we've created, okay? But liberty, no one can take that away. And that is something I'm excited about fighting for. I think that people need to understand that from the inside out. I think living from an inside out philosophy, not an outside in philosophy. What I mean by that is, everything you look about for your health, from your values, from your morality, from your soul, is from inside out, not an outside in. And the world just continues to want to push an outside in agenda. And I think if you just reflect on where you're grabbing and getting, you'll clearly understand that some of these may be incongruent, and that you have to change the way, or at least look at it from a different perspective on how you're living your life, because we need people to get involved and just get out there and just even speak a voice. Just go out there and talk and speak a voice about what you feel is right or wrong.
Yeah. Beautifully put. I was so stuck on that that quote you said, that I was just thinking about it, just really, really hit me because it's totally true, right?
So true. Yep.
Government gives us freedom. Liberty is bestowed on us by God, and we don't have to ask permission to have it. We don't need to say, oh, well, my liberty is going to be off for the next 2 weeks to slow the spread. My liberty is going to take a vacation, right? It's not the way it works, but wow, that really hit me. Wow. Thank you.
It hit me too. When I first heard that, and he said, that's why the words are in the Declaration and how the Constitution's written. So when you read it, you'll read it through a different lens. Hopefully that'd be cool. Doc, how can people get in touch with you? How can they help you, support you as we close up, man? This has been awesome.
Yeah, I agree. You've always been a huge mentor of mine. And so to do this on the other side of many years of both of us doing stuff with our families, our practices, and I don't know how many thousands of miles, away we are or apart we are, but this is great. You can go to 1776foreverfree.com. We're doing a couple of different campaigns if you want to get involved. We're doing the Drive for 200, trying to get 200 people to donate $100 a month. That would be $20,000 in revenue per month for the organization. It would be huge. What we're doing with that is moving, touching, and inspiring people and mobilizing people. I've got a guy building another. This guy's like one of those tech geeks that Joe, that you and I usually hire because we don't understand the stuff, or I'll speak for myself. StreamYard, what is that? How do I do that? Right? But this guy is building this huge page as another resource to connect people around the country and show them, hey, if you want to run for local government, here's how you do it. Here's a simple link in your state, in your city. Those are the types of things that we're doing with funding. In addition, as I mentioned, we're doing the PAC to really get people involved, put money behind them, to get folks like you and I, Joe, in office at the local level, because the federal level, the Nervous Nancys, the Crying Chucks, we're not necessarily going to win that because of, a little software called Dominion. You might have heard of it. But at the local level, we can still influence a lot of places there. And that's where patriots need to be harnessed for the next battle, whatever that looks like, the next overreach for freedom. So we're doing that with donations. We've got something called the Red Hat campaign. We have these great red hats that say 1776 forever free. Probably saw me wearing one of them with, backwards most of the time. And the Red Hat campaign is all about, Joe, a lot of people don't know that 1776 was when the colonialists, the 13 colonies, they said, hey, we're pushing back. We don't want taxation without representation. We're going to push back against tyranny and a tyrannical government. And that's where we are right now. So how do you get involved? You donate, you get a seat at the table, 1776foreverfree.com. If you want to get involved with your time as well, you go to the contact link. There's a way to fill out a short application. We'll review it and really discuss with you, okay, what are your skill sets and what do you want to do? Sometimes people have 10 hours a week and it's a simple share of a post, or committing to, I'll do 5 Facebook posts, and share them with 10 family members for 1776 per week. It doesn't have to be a given thing. Your commitment from a volunteer standpoint can be whatever you want it to be.
Love it, man. Good. And we'll post that stuff up on here and get that stuff out here. Just put it in the comment section, if you will, all the things that you want. Drive it on there. People will see it. We'll share it out there to everybody. If you guys are on here and you want to share it, please share it with everybody, just because you think someone needs to hear this message. I think it's pretty important what we're doing here. And we'll grab Dr. John soon when he can jump back on again and we'll circle back around with this. But Doc, I can't thank you enough. Give your wife a big hug and kiss. Give your kids a big hug and kiss. I can't wait to see you. I'm going to cross paths pretty soon. And thank you so much for getting up early and your time. It's been really appreciated. I love the work you're doing. We need people like you out there, man. I love it. Just thanks for being the tip of that arrow, man. Like, I know sometimes it feels alone. Sometimes it feels hot and heavy. Sometimes it feels resistant. But you know what? It's well received and well respected. So thanks so much for doing all that.
Well, wow. I don't know how to take that. Really appreciate that. Especially coming from you, because you've been a huge mentor of mine for a long time. So it means a lot, brother.
Keep on keeping on, brother. Love you.
Thanks, buddy. God bless you. Love you too. Thanks for having me on.
Be good.